Well, Tesla outpaced the market today by a lot, including all of the Mag 7, but it's still struggling to get over 260. I didn't even see this as being a potential stopping point. So good news this Tuesday, but just not as good as I had hoped. And here to help me figure it out with his second time at bat is Nicholas Gibbs. Hey, Nick, how you doing? I understand you're way far away and it's really late where you are. What you got going on?
Just doing a little traveling, a little European vacation.
A little European vacation. Yeah, you were telling me before we came on that you're in one of those cute little villages by the sea in northern Spain. I mean, there's hardly anything more picturesque in the world.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful and the weather is just right. It's not too cold, not too hot, just enough for a nice sweater and good food, good people, good times.
All right, good for you. Well, what did you think about that action today?
I was happy about it. Well, I won't lie. A green day is a great day.
I
Never
see.
be never be upset on an up day. But yeah, I mean, it's struggling a little bit at that 260 level for sure. But at the same time, once we crack it, we're probably going to run. And so I think sometimes it's good to have these consolidation moments rather than just doing everything overnight. So no, I think it's a good sign. And the China numbers that came out, those were solid. I mean, yeah, I think everybody's just taking it easy, waiting to see what happens. It's year end. People are out on vacation. People are going to come back. We're going to start seeing what the real numbers look like. We'll get the year end numbers. And, I think like we both talked about last week, I think that's when we'll probably get into the high 200s, potentially break 300s around that time.
Well, if Tesla's robots, those old robots, the normal kind of robots, if those robots would stop stabbing employees in the back and getting blood all over the floor, I think, the stock would do better, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was pretty impressive that the media, it only took them about what, 2 years to catch up to that. So yeah, I thought that was great. Great real time reporting there.
On an employee who didn't even have to go home for the day.
Yeah, that's how desperate headlines are now.
That's right. Oh my gosh, I can't even. I guess they're really desperate. All right. So Dan Ives said that this is going to be a golden year for Tesla. He says that Elon Musk did the greatest poker move of all time with his price cutting in 2023, and that 2024 will see higher margins and increasing market share in the US. I couldn't agree more with Dan Ives. How about you?
Yeah, honestly, the only thing I would disagree with would be semantics in that it wasn't a poker move. It was the same thing you've probably heard from, your manager, your boss, whoever you seek for guidance, where they tell you don't focus on the money, don't focus on the particular outcome you're going for, focus on your goal, focus on doing a good job, stick to your mission, and everything else will follow. And that's all Elon's doing. He's sticking to his mission. They're lowering prices to clear inventory. That's all they're doing. People can see it as a poker move. People can see it as fighting the competition or trying to hurt them. I see it as Elon's just doing what they got to do to move inventory. That's it. And you know what? The results happen to be that everybody else is hurting now. Everybody else having to change their plans. Nobody wants to buy those vehicles. Tesla's, lane just opened up wide. Those are the repercussions that happen when you do what you're supposed to do and you stick to your mission and you don't deviate from it. So that's what I see. I don't see it as a poker move. I don't think it's calculated in that sense. I think it's, we had a goal. We're not changing our goal just because of the macro. Same way with the whole chips situation. Remember,
Yeah.
they didn't stop cutting. They weren't trying to sit there and game and time everything. Listen, we're not going to cut our orders because we're not looking at things quarter to quarter or just this year or just next year. We're looking at the bigger picture. We're looking at the mission, and that has stood the test of time. And I think that's the difference between Tesla and really just about any other company out there.
So I have been putting forth an idea, and I don't remember whether you and I discussed this last week, that Elon got a little nervous in the middle of last year. He talked about it, at the earnings calls, and it got him in a lot of trouble. And he was just kind of like, you know what, I'm a little nervous about this economy. These interest rates are, a little bit crazy, and I think he was just really happy to have all that money in the bank for a change, not have to really think about it that much. And I think that he pulled back. I think the reason we're not seeing semi trucks on the road in big numbers, the reason that maybe we're not seeing the Model Y refresh yet, maybe the reason we don't have a new building being built in Shanghai until next month or the next month, maybe Mexico even. The Reno, we had all these things that seem like they should have happened in 2023. And then now all of a sudden, it looks like these things are back on the front burner and starting to happen. I think Elon is finally, okay, I feel okay about the direction. Do you think any of that's going on in his mind, or do you have another theory?
I mean, but my guess is as good as yours, but if I were to play devil's advocate with that point of view, I would say, is that the same reason why Berlin took so long to complete? Is that why Austin took so long to ramp up? No, right? I mean, those were the same things. It's sometimes these things take a lot longer than we anticipate. We hit roadblocks, we hit hurdles, right? I mean, there's a lot of permitting issue that happened in Berlin. We saw the same thing in Mexico. So yeah, maybe some of it was a pullback, but we also saw the semi kind of pullback really before all this even happened. So yeah, maybe there's a little bit of that, but I also think a lot of it is sometimes these things take longer than we anticipate. I mean, are they pulling back on FSD? I don't think so. It's just taking longer than we thought. Yeah, so I think there is validity to what you're saying, but again, I don't think it's all that calculated. I think a lot of it's like, they're dealing with the constraints of everybody else, their processes, their red tapes, and they're trying to navigate that as well. So I'm sure part of it is what you're saying, though.
Yeah, as a pure entrepreneur, I am always impatient. I always want it done tomorrow. Doesn't matter whether it has any implications at all for the stock price or for the future. I'm just so excited about seeing these things on the road.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Absolutely, I'm with you.
So, speaking of excitement, what are you the most excited about in 2024 when it comes to Tesla?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. If I had to pick one thing, and I'll do a little plug because I'm gonna talk about all of this in an upcoming video I'm gonna do for my 2024 predictions.
Sure.
I do this every year. So we'll review last year's predictions, and actually most of them came true. But for 2024, the thing I'm probably most excited about is when they do the next AI day. We're gonna see the ramp in the factories. We'll probably see Mexico break ground. We'll see the Cybertrucks ramp up. We'll probably see iterations of improvement of FSD and bot. But I'm more interested in when they hold their next AI day to really understand everything that they're showing us in these videos and really see how far along it's come and get down to the nitty gritty, the engineering behind it all. That's probably what, if I had to pick one thing, it's that.
Okay. So do you think the AI day will happen in the first half, or what do you think?
Everybody keeps saying first quarter. I'm not sure why everybody keeps saying this. I mean, I've heard Kathy Woods allude to this. I've heard Omar allude to this. I've heard Farzad allude to this. So I mean, I don't know if everybody's just saying that's when it should probably happen, but hopefully first quarter, that'd be awesome. But I think I do think they were waiting. In the last earnings call, Elon insinuated that there's still the bot's not going to be working in the factory until they're manufacturing their own actuators. And so now with this new version of the bot, it seems clear that they've gone ahead and they've ramped that up and that they're making their own actuators. And so now they are interested in going into volume. And so maybe now is the right time for an AI day, and they were just waiting. That's possible, but who knows? Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, of course. Nobody knows this about me, so I'll whisper it. Is that Optimus is my biggest thing? That's what I'm the most excited about, and of course, AI Day would be all about the bot, probably. So I'm good with your call.
We're aligned.
Okay, so what are you most concerned about in 2023?
I'll pick two things here, if you don't mind, because it's tied.
Sure.
One, and they kind of dovetail into each other. I'm a bit worried about the macro in the sense of I really hope the Fed doesn't wait too long. At the same time, I hope they don't move too early,
Yeah.
right? I don't want them to move too early and then we see, ignition of inflation, and next we're in a Volcker era all over again. I don't think we will be, but I'm concerned about that a little bit. I mean, we already see freight costs going up because of everything happening in the Red Sea there with the whole conflict going on. So that's sending prices up, that's sending energy costs up. Maybe not so much for us, but for Europe, and but those things trickle into everything in the economy, right? So that timing, though, you could take your hat off to Jerome Powell. They've done a decent job, I guess. Worried about that, but that would trickle into Tesla sales numbers,
Uh,
right? Because now they're going to have to hit that next level, whether you're calling it 2.1, 2.4, however you're doing your math on what you think the number should be, right? I know that's like arguing religion with people these days on what Elon said and where it should be. But if the economy, if the Fed does screw it up, and we do have problems with the economy, that's obviously going to reflect on Tesla. They're not immune from it. So I would say those would be my biggest worries. And then, okay, three. 2022 was black swan event after black swan event after black swan event. So if there's another black swan event, I mean, you could consider the whole, Red Sea issue a black swan event.
right, right.
So yeah, the unpredictable.
Sure, sure, okay. So yeah, so it's of course we always have that. That's always an issue. It could happen any year, anytime. You just never know, what you might be faced with. All right. So now you just mentioned about this conversation that's taking place right now. The street is at about 2.1. I think Test-like is about 2.1 million for next year. The number we would have to hit in order to be the 50% per year since 2020 would be around 2.5. I think it's 2.53 to be more exact, but anyway, let's call it 2.5. And Gary Black and Larry Goldberg and others are around 2.4. I'm at 2.35. I don't know how anybody gets down to 2.1. I'm pretty sure they can make more than 2.4 if the economy does extremely well, because they have room in Berlin and in Austin for sure. Where do you fall in all this?
That's a good question. I haven't put too much thought into it just yet. I was really holding off until we get these Q4 numbers
Yeah.
because that's going to be your baseline, I think. But I do think I do think we're going to be. I mean, I think you're spot on. I think we're going to be anywhere from 2.2 to 2.4. If rates do start coming down, if they do start cutting, and I think when they cut, I think they're going to cut aggressive. I don't, whenever that is, I don't think it's going to be this little trickle effect.
Oh,
Um, but but yeah, so I think that'll be the range. But I could see us triggering more stimulus because we can't forget it's not just that they're raising rates, right?
yeah.
They're also doing quantitative tightening, right? It's not the sexy thing to talk about. It's not the rates, but that like we've never done that. So we still don't know the effects of that. And all this stuff happens with lags. And with quantitative tightening, we don't know the real effects of that. So yeah, there's so much unknown there. But if they do it right, I mean, I'm with Dan Ives on the whole thought that this could be, the next bull run of, 4 to 5 years for tech.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think you're spot on with your number.
So that was an interesting thought. You just made me think once again about the Fed's decision. There's at least one or two other analysts who think that the first cut will be like 50 or 75 basis points. But I think they're thinking March. I did come out the other day and say I think there's a decent chance they'll cut before March, but I hadn't thought about a deeper cut. The reason for my earlier cut is because I think that we're going to be going right past that 2%. And then the Fed is going to have to really make a decision. What are they going to do? I mean, Truflation was down to 2.55 already. So that's an indication that we're just coming down like this. And it's happening now in foods and the stuff you buy at the grocery store. It's happening in clothing. kind of the categories that were staying up. Now those are coming down, which is what Costco and Walmart had to be talking about when they said they saw deflation ahead. So if we get into a deflationary situation in those categories, oil is already down. Housing usually over the winter is going to be soft. So we could see ourselves going into a 1% or even lower. Then the Fed might have to do it. They might do exactly what you're talking about. Maybe it's 50 basis points in February or something.
Let me add to that, Randy. So just to build off that, because everything you said is spot on. PCE is the Fed's preferred indicator, right? I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that I haven't looked at it in about a week, so don't quote me on this, but I believe if you annualize the last 6 months, we are under 2%.
Right.
Where I think we're at 1.8%. That's their preferred measure. That's last 6 months.
Right.
Like, so to your point, I do think we are going to blow past the 2%. I think we're going to get there a lot faster than what the Fed thinks. Or I don't want to say what they think, what they tell us they think.
Right,
I think we're going to get there a lot faster than what they tell us they think. So that's where my narrative of a deeper, faster cut. And I don't think the cut will necessarily come at a meeting. I think it'll be, just 1 week, we're cutting.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Wow. So towards the end of next week, hello, I can't read my own, and this is printed in very large type. I should be able to read this.
It's all right. It's late for me, at least.
It's a lot later for you. So at the end of last week, we started hearing more kind of bigger numbers on Cybertruck's daily output. We haven't heard anything so far this week that I know of. Maybe you have, but we were looking at 25 or 30 or 40 a day coming out. Do you have any kind of thoughts where you think the Cybertruck will be this, in the early going? Do you think we're going to have an easy ramp, or what do you think?
So I think by year end, we'll be anywhere from, like, for production. I don't know about deliveries, right? Because that's a whole different ballgame. But for production, I think they'll have produced about 500 to 1,000 by because again, to your point, about 40-day run rate, it's doesn't take that long to get to those numbers. And I think that's conservative. As far as the ramp, I think the ramp's can be a lot smoother than people think. I think people underestimate what it means not to have to paint the vehicle. And I think people underestimate. So yes, they've said that this is a very difficult vehicle to make. Something I don't hear a lot of people talk about is the fact that everybody from Tesla's, or Elon's lieutenants, they've all told us that the Cybertruck inspired the next gen vehicle. Right. The next gen vehicle is built with the unbox method. Right. I think, as we saw with Sandy's tour of the factory and going through it, you could see elements of the unbox method in that. And you could see almost how doing that led to the unbox method. And so I do think this is going to ramp faster. I do think it's going to have elements of an unbox method, not exactly what we saw, but I think it's going to have elements of it where it's just quick. They're going to make the pieces, and it's just going to be bringing everything together, and it's going to be a lot faster, no paint. Yeah, I think it's going to go a lot smoother than people think.
Cool. Well, talking about going smoother and the earlier conversation about not going so smooth, I thought we would have like 5 megafactories open by now. I thought we'd be making mega batteries like crazy, because the profit potential and the ease of manufacturing just seems like that everything would be, going that direction. But we finally did hear that they're breaking ground. Well, they broke ground, and now they'll start building the factory sometime in the first quarter, and they should be manufacturing mega packs in Shanghai by the third quarter. Every one of those factories that does 10,000 of mega packs a year is the equivalent of 250,000 Model Ys in profit. Every one of those factories is the profit of 250,000. So do you think we're going to be hearing about more mega factory openings soon?
So let me thread this needle back to what we were talking about before.
Okay.
So before, we were talking about, is Tesla slowing things down because they're cautious about the factory? I played devil's advocate. I said, well, there's red tape, there's friction, and I used Berlin and all that as an example. Megapack factories, we know demand's unlimited. There's no issue there. They have a backlog. So you might ask yourself, well, why haven't they built more? Well, again, I don't think it's because they're slowing things down. I think there's complications. With a mega pack factory, you don't want to be shipping these. You want to localize these, to your point. And so I think what they're trying to do is localize not just the factory, but also the battery manufacturing to it, right? So I think there's a lot there. But with that said, I think Shanghai is going to be the prototype on how they can potentially scale these. So they'll build Shanghai, they'll learn from that. Once that's built, I would say yes. I think we could expect to see a 4 or 5 country announcement. There's a reason why Elon just went on this world tour all summer long, talking to the to the leaders of the top countries in the world. That's not coincidence. That's not just random. Those are not for car factories, right? We know this. So I think we will see announcements, and energy is the sleeping giant that, again, because for some reason Wall Street just dismisses it. They don't talk about it at all. Yeah, it's growing at what, like a 300% rate? Like, it's crazy that Wall Street ignores it.
Yeah, and now we have Bradford saying that he believes that they're planning to double the capacity of Lathrop from 10,000 to 20,000 per year of the actual boxes of the actual mega packs. I'm waiting. I'm hoping that at the earnings call that maybe they give us an update and let us know if that's actually true, because that would just be incredible.
Yeah, and this is coming from a guy who sits there and watches to see how many are
Right.
coming out in his car. So yeah, isn't it amazing, the community we have, that we have people who do that?
It is absolutely incredible. There's no other company like it. So if we hit 1.8 next Tuesday, what will the stock do? Will that be good enough? Will it continue to move up as long as the macro is okay? Will it stall because that's not going to? What do you think is going to happen if we hit? I think it's going to be really close to 1.8. So
Yeah, I think I don't want to say Tesla's sandbagging. I think Tesla is aiming to hit exactly 1.8 and then saving everything else for 2024. I think I said that last week, because that just helps them towards hitting their goal for 2024, right? It makes sense. You see salespeople do this all the time.
sure.
Once they hit their quota, if they have other deals, okay, well, I got to hit quota next quarter.
That's right.
I rather delay these sales, right? Unless you're getting, amplifiers on your commission. But with that said, I think that's what Tesla's doing. I do think 1.8 will be enough, because it'll further show Tesla's yet again, even in this roughest of years, yet again, hitting their numbers, just like they did in 2022 as well. And there's a certain point where it has to happen, where people are going to say, all right, well, they just keep doing it over and over. We said that it wouldn't happen at this price level, yet it keeps happening. We said it wouldn't happen. People don't want it yet. Now it's the best-selling vehicle in the world, right? There's a certain point where people are going to say, okay, enough's enough. We got to get into this. And there's a lot of portfolio managers that, I mean, right now, Tesla's essentially just retail investors,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, right.
And there's still, what, 5 trillion in money markets? That money's got to go somewhere eventually.
Yeah.
And right now, Tesla, to me, is the most shiny object that's out there. The diamond in the rough that's not rough at all. The most obvious diamond sitting there.
And the funny thing is, we keep adding to the retail investor pool every year. So we'll be
Yeah.
basically adding 1.8 billion potential retail investors. As they buy the car, they begin, oh, well, this car is really amazing. Maybe I should look into the stock. I know that's commonly how I make a decision on the stock. Hey, I love shopping at Costco. Well, maybe I should be buying Costco. So it is we just keep adding and adding and adding more of these retail investors, which is certainly a cool way to build up your potential equity pond, if you will. All right. So do you have any theories on what the first, we all now believe that we're going to see the model, the third generation, the unboxed, whatever we need a name for this vehicle. Everybody's got
the next gen platform.
I like next gen or third gen. Anyway, so have you been thinking about what you think this vehicle will look like?
Yeah. So, well, here's the question. The one that has a steering wheel or the robotaxi?
Well, so yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough.
So that's
Um,
that's it.
I think I'm I'm gravitating more towards the thought process of a two-seater vehicle. I think that makes a lot of sense for the robotaxi. I think for a passenger vehicle, it will have four doors, two normal, and then two that once you open the front door, the front door, the back door just kind of has a little latch that you can open from maybe, or maybe it's not like that, but four smaller doors, and it'll have four seats. It'll be a lot more compressed. Um, I think it's going to I think it's going to be a painted vehicle. I don't think it's going to be non-painted.
Okay.
I know a lot of people think it won't, but I think it'll be a lot more futuristic looking in the sense, not like the Cybertruck looks like the future, right?
Right.
But again, if you look at other things from the future, like Tron, for example, a lot of that stuff isn't exactly like the Cybertruck, but it's futuristic looking. And so when they say that the Cybertruck influenced the next gen platform, I think besides the whole unbox method and simplicity, I think a lot of it is okay, well, what else can look more like the future? And taking elements from Tron and things that okay, let's just make this look more futuristic, which is what the Cybertruck did. But this will be in a different way, but still look more futuristic. So I think it will be elements of all that. Um, yeah. What about you? What do you think?
Well, Elon just visited the Sphere and he was very impressed by the Sphere. So maybe the car will be covered with little pixels on the outside
Sounds expensive.
and it'll just be changing all the time. No, I just made that up on the spur of the I believe I have believed, although I'm open for changing my mind, that it would be a 5-seater, 4 or 5-seater, but it would be basically configured in a way that it would be easy to turn into a robotaxi. So you could go either way. Either it's a car that's steerable, but you could take the steering wheel off because it's going to be drive-by-wire anyway. So you could take the steering wheel off, put it in the trunk, and move the chairs into a different configuration easily, turn them around or whatever. And all of a sudden now you've got a car that would be not just a robotaxi, but a car that you could comfortably, use on full self-driving to take your family someplace. So that I've
Yeah.
always believed that it would have that kind of flexibility on the very first one.
I think we're more or less aligned. The only thing is, I don't think you'll be taking the steering wheel out. I think what they'll be doing is when they manufacture, the body will be the exact same, but the insides will be different. So, for example, instead of having the back seats and the two front seats, they'll just have two seats that are slid back, so you have more leg room. Maybe you can lay down. Maybe you have more trunk room now because it's a robotaxi. And as a robotaxi, two-seaters make the most sense.
Oh yeah.
Absolute most sense
Well,
because
you may have to have a different one. You may have to have a van as a separate robotaxi,
why?
because sometimes people travel in larger groups.
Then you call two, then you call four, then you call six.
You could. You're right. Yeah.
Easy solution. Yeah. I mean, it'll be so cost effective, long term
Right.
that it would just make sense to just, okay, well, hey, we need three of these, have them arrive,
Well,
and
but,
they just
but
show up.
Warren Redlick thinks it's going to be a single passenger. So.
Well, he's working on that one.
Okay. All right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Well, I think we probably should look at the markets now and see where things are happening here at the end of the day. Let's see. Let's start with, of course, Tesla. And in the aftermarket or the pre-market or whichever one you want to call it, we've got Tesla up another 22 cents. So now sitting at 256.82. It was as high as 257.97 today, which wasn't quite as high as it got the other day, but I think this might be the highest close. I think it's the highest close in a while.
In a while, yeah.
Yeah, I think in a while. So let's see if I put in a month. No, it closed. When did it close over to? Yeah, 258. Yeah, so it's been a little higher in the last month. than this close. So anyway, you know, I know I said 300 by the end of the month, but now I'm just wanting it to plow, like you said, plow through 260 because I think it'll run once it goes through. Any thoughts about after the fact that it's up again, or anything you want to add?
No, I think it's a good start. I think we'll see it continue to, trickle up towards the end of the year.
Okay. Now let's go. I didn't set my bonds up immediately here. Here we go. Let's go to now. I keep saying, maybe I'll get your opinion on this. Maybe you already said it last week and I just don't remember, that the bonds have been running the show for the last 2 years. It's all been about the bonds. What the bonds do, the rest of the market has to respond to every single time. And that I think that's going to go away. Once things stabilize, we'll go back to caring about what the earnings are a lot more. We'll be looking at what do we see the next quarter's earnings? I've already heard that talk a lot more this particular time. People are very interested in what the earnings are going to be in January. Because basically I think the indexes have run out of room if we don't see some new earnings that show, and some conversation about what's expected for 2024. We may have run out of out of room there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the bonds have definitely been the best telltale sign for what's to come. I think the bonds are, signaling what's to come with rate cuts. And, up to this point, bonds haven't lied. I mean, what's the 10-year sitting at? 3.9, something like that.
Yeah, still under. It's up a little bit in the pre-market, but it's still at 3.893.
Yeah, I mean, that says a lot. We that's what, almost a little over 1 point,
Yeah, it's
over 100 basis point.
over 100 basis points lower than it was a month ago. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy. Like that happened before Powell said, anything about the cuts.
Oh yeah.
Right. So the bonds haven't failed us yet.
Now then, we have these short-term bonds. I'm still looking for somebody who's got the answer to this. The 2-month is up another 6 basis points in the after hours at 5.468. That makes it a full 150 basis points higher than the 10-year. And the 2-year is even up only one. It's kind of going in the same direction as the 10-year in the pre-market here, but still it's over 40 basis points higher than the 10-year. When does the inversion reinvert?
Yeah, that's a good question. And whoever has an answer to that, we need to talk to you.
That they're not even talking about it. I can't even find articles. I can't find anybody saying, well, I think it'll reinvert. I mean, there's just no conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's gone quiet because for the longest time they were saying, well, when it gets inverted, guaranteed recession. The longer the inversion, the harder the recession. And now nobody's talking about it. They're just talking about rate cuts, and it's as if there is no inversion. I think Rick Santelli is the only person I even hear talk about it. But yeah, no, it's interesting. I almost wonder if these short-term bonds, people are piling into them, knowing that these rates aren't going to hold for long, and so they're just trying to, get some last-minute gains before going into 2024. Maybe, I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine.
It's driving me nuts. Okay, so, and my brother says that when I say that something is driving me nuts, he always tells me that's a short trip, Randy. Anyway, the oil market is sitting here finally a little bit. It was up strongly today, the Texas Intermediate, but it is off in the pre-market, back down to 75.25. Brent is unchanged, which means it is now stretched out almost to $6 difference again. To your point, the Red Sea definitely seems to be affecting the European rates more than the U.S. rates. Thoughts anymore? Yeah, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would just say for people who think, oh, this is more so channels of oil going to Europe, affect them more than it will us. That is true. It will affect them more, but keep in mind we also need a mixture of sweet and sour crude, and we need Middle East oil to create the blends that we use here, and they need ours, right? So it is a shared relationship there. So it will affect us as well. WTI is normally lower than Brent. I
Usually
mean, for as
three.
long as I can remember. Yeah. Um, but it will have effects, and not so like, if you ignore just fuel prices, that trickles into everything, into shipping costs, into flights, into, I don't know, your groceries and shipping for those groceries, right? Like it trickles through the economy one way or another. So it is something to keep an eye on. But there are vessels being sent over there to try to create peace and
Yes.
reduce the friction in that choke point.
Well, they're trying to make the insurance companies happy is what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
The sailors will probably sail, but the insurance companies are like, no, 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 you're not going. So the natural gas, which is at almost exactly the midpoint of where it's been over the last year at 2.58, though we are at almost January 1. So winter is kind of half over. And it's been pretty mild. So nat gas, I think the only reason it's popped up at all is because of the Mideast stuff. Because it was down to 2.25 just last week. Where do you think that's headed? Obviously the winter can fix it, but
Yeah, I mean, again, the biggest concern there again was Europe heating and everything going on with regards to Russia, Ukraine. So much stockpile, a warmer winter for Europe. Uh, I think it goes back down. I think it's just, the noise after a Black Swan event, the noise after some, uh, terror headlines coming out, typical stuff. I think things will neutralize out in January.
so gold has had a particularly good year. Uh, Half of the year, the dollar was super strong, and now the dollar's off like 10%. Gold is sitting at 2076, and it was up strongly today. Do you think, people are talking about it for all kinds of reasons? I have not been that interested in the gold market for a number of years. Because of the show, I now pay a lot more attention to it. Do you have any thoughts about how you think gold's going to play out in the new economy where we've got Bitcoins competing with gold, where we have oil and kind of the whole, world of energy kind of competing as another oil, if you will, people talking about energy as
Mhm.
almost like a currency. What do you think? Where do you think gold's going to fit in all this?
Yeah, gold's weird. To be honest, I haven't followed it in, seriously in a long time. I used to own the GLD, which is ETF that mimics gold. But I haven't owned it in I mean, over a decade probably.
Okay.
Um, but I think it's weird, right? Because with the stock market doing so well, normally you wouldn't see things like gold, do as well. But we're seeing
Inflation
gold do
down
well.
and inflation.
Exactly. Exactly. We're seeing gold do well. Bitcoin's doing really well. So I don't know. I mean, I guess you could say that gold's probably doing really well along the stock market because of all of these hot spots and these conflicts going on around the world. Um, you know, Two things can be true at the same time. Companies can be doing really well and inflation can be coming down. At the same time, people can be fearful about all these different conflicts going on. People can be worried about debt ceilings coming up and countries, the US, not be able to pay back their debt. So, I think it's probably a lot of that going on. And, I mean, people who have a lot in their stock portfolios and they don't want to lose it and they're getting older and, putting some aside into gold. Yeah, it makes sense.
I know you may have seen where Costco decided to sell gold bars, and they
I
sold
did actually.
sold millions of them. People were just like buying those things like it was like a fad or something.
It's funny you said I actually did see that. I was just, I mean, Costco will sell anything, won't they?
Yeah, it's just right. They sell coffins,
Yeah, I
so they
do
got
know
you
that. Yeah,
they got you coming and going.
yeah.
So
I've tried. I'm not a Costco guy. I've tried several times.
interesting.
Yeah,
So Bitcoin down 1,000 in the pre-market. Well, actually, I think Bitcoin, I should look this up sometime so I know for sure. I think Bitcoin doesn't have an aftermarket pre-market. I think it is a 24-hour cycle or something.
I believe that's true.
Right. So sitting at 42.4 right now, that's pretty much in the trading range. It's been for quite a while. I would say at least 15 days or something like that. It's been 4,000 to 4,400. I'm sorry, 40,000 to 44,000. It's hard to even almost say that.
Yeah. And I mentioned this last week, but and also keep, Bitcoin's just fun to watch and it's interesting whether you're in it or not. But the halving event should be happening in April, so keep an eye on that because that'll be very interesting.
Yes, indeed. All right. So what we got here right now is we got the Dow up a tiny bit, 0.03%, 11 points. We've got the S&P unchanged. We got the NAS. Whoops, I'm sorry. All of a sudden, my computer, it just moved on me, so I got to go back here. Yeah, okay, it's correct. S&P 100% unchanged. NASDAQ futures up 50 cents, basically unchanged. Interesting, like so flat in the pre-market for the three indexes. That's kind of, some people talk about having a little more volatility, during this week because there's so, fewer traders.
Yeah, I mean, at the same time though, I think a lot of people are probably maybe not like hedge funds or institutions, but a lot of retailers may be trying to get ahead of some stuff. Yeah, that's kind of why I think we'll see Tesla do well for the rest of the week. Is I think you'll see people try to get ahead of the numbers announcement.
Right. Okay, well, listen, Tesla is still sitting at 26 cents up in the pre-market. You know, if you like having Nicholas on the channel, this would be the time to hit the like button. We want to break the record for the percentage of likes. And then Nicholas will feel good. I'll feel good. You'll feel good.
It's good to feel good.
Everybody will feel good. And then hit the subscribe button and hit the notify button because, we've got to line up all the rest of the week of other great co-hosts. It's probably the best channel now in terms of the quality of what we're doing every single night with outstanding co-hosts. I don't know anybody that can say that they're any better than this channel. And then earlier today, we did a couple of videos you might want to take a look at. I'll put cards up. Both of them are talking about these issues with regard to the way that the news is just wrong. It's just awful. We talked about that crazy thing last week, Nicholas, where they were talking about Tesla drivers being the worst drivers.
No.
It's like, I looked at that and I'm like, how could they even, anyway, it was just ridiculous. And then, and I did one, I couldn't stand it. I don't normally do 4 in a day, but around 2 o'clock, I was looking at those ones about the Tesla robots killing the employee or whatever. It was blood dripping on the floor and I couldn't stand it. So I threw that one up too. I think both of those are fun to watch. I'm not suggesting you'll learn a lot, but I think you'll have fun watching them. So I'll put cards up for both of those. Anyway, Nick, last thoughts for today? Anything that's just burning inside you?
Yeah, enjoy the rest of 2023. Don't take it for granted. We got a few days left and make the most of it. Every year is a special one, and you don't get tomorrow back.
That's absolutely true. And you're taking advantage of your own wisdom by being in one of the really beautiful places in the world. Thanks a lot for being on again, Nick, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Yes. I'm so confused this week by even what day it is. And for all of you out there, it's been great talking to you.